Trying this again. I think it is working. Hi, everyone, and welcome to My Baby Experts. My name is Shari Criso, and I'm here with my husband, Joe.
Hi, everyone.
And we're super excited to have you all join us today for probably one of our most important episodes that we've done. We've been doing this for many, many years, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that we've never discussed, but I'm not even sure it's ever really been discussed publicly, and so needed. So tonight we are joined. It's actually daytime for some of us and evening for a few of others who are joining us today. So we are going to be bringing on our guests, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody is joining the chat right now, because I know we have a lot of people all over the world who are very excited about this topic and this show. And I want to make sure I give you a minute to jump on with us. And yes, I see you are all coming on now. Hold on one second while I pull up my screen. There we are. Okay. Hi, welcome everybody. Hi. And it's very exciting for me to be sitting next to my husband here, who usually is on the back end running the chat room. And today Joe is going to do the show with us very appropriately. Today's topic is postpartum depression and fatherhood. And whether it's, you're going to hear from some people, some very special people, about their own personal experiences and then what they're doing to really support so many others across the globe with this situation that we are all kind of involved in, whether we're a man, a woman. It affects all of us as parents. And so you're going to hear from them right now. I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guests and introduce them. So everybody's jumping on. Hi, this is very exciting. Okay. Hold on one second while I do the technology here. Give me a moment, and there we are. Okay, and let's see, let's just make sure everybody's unmuted. Okay, and we are unmuted. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, but we are here, and I can see everyone joining the chat right now from across the planet, literally. So I'm very excited. I'd like to introduce, this is Lindsay Gerszt and her husband, Brad Gerszt. And we also have Mark Williams joining us from all the way across the pond over in the UK. So thank you guys all for being here with us today for this amazing conversation.
Thank you for having us. This is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Yes, fantastic. So just so that everybody understands, let me just give you, because we have so many new people, I'll introduce myself just for a moment of what I've been doing and why I'm doing this show with all of you, and then we'll just let everybody introduce themselves as well, so you can kind of get an idea of who the crowd is tonight and what we'll be presenting. First of all, just so you know, Joe and I have been doing the live streaming shows for, almost 7 years now. My background is I was a labor and delivery nurse and a certified nurse midwife. And Joe and I actually ran a medical practice for many years, taking care of moms and babies, as well as a retail store and a learning center where we taught classes together. So sitting next to Joe is actually coming back to something that we love doing, which was teaching prenatal classes and breastfeeding classes and working together as a couple. And I think part of that is knowing that when we are talking to you as a couple, you are experiencing the same thing. And when we go through parenting, regardless of what we're talking about, it is a partnership and it is a team sport. I always say that, parenting is a team sport. And so, that's really speaks to what we're going to discuss today, and how not only do we all feel the joy and all of it, but we also can feel the stress and sometimes the difficulty. And that is the conversation. So it's really appropriate to have you here with me. So thanks for doing this. And
we've done well over 100 episodes live, and this is actually my first time co-hosting live with you.
Totally.
I was a part of one, but it was pre-recorded and then broadcast live. So I'm a newbie tonight too.
So today's first time for Joe. But I'd love to just, this is Lindsay. Lindsay is the producer of the new film, When the Bough Breaks. a documentary about postpartum depression. She was on with us a couple weeks ago with the director and also one of the experts that was in the film. And I'm so happy to have you back, Lindsay. And we talked about last time being just the beginning of so many conversations that are going to be needed, and glad to be doing it again.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this for so long now, so I'm really excited to do this.
Yeah.
And appreciate you guys so much for giving us the platform for this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Brad's here, who I'm really excited to have with us too. Brad was also in the film. Brad is Lindsay's husband. And do you want to just say hi and just, I mean, I know this is your first time doing this too.
Yeah, this is my first time online, and it really is a pleasure to be here and to be in the capacity of not only being supportive to my wife, but also giving a voice to what we as fathers went through during the whole experience that our wife suffered postpartum depression. So very excited to be here, and thank you for the forum.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we have Mark Williams, who I just have the pleasure of meeting recently. And I'm just so excited to have you here with us, Mark. Mark is in the UK and doing some amazing, amazing things. So I want to give you an opportunity to really tell us how you got started doing this and what it is that you're doing now to support parents, dads, men, women all over the world.
Yeah, didn't understand depression 12 years ago. I didn't understand it at all. And after a traumatic birth, I thought my wife was going to die and the baby was going to die. First, I had a panic attack. Never had a panic attack before. And my wife had severe postnatal depression. I had to give up work, look after her. But I suffered for about 6 years in silence until I eventually had a breakdown. And now I'm just like want to spread it around that the quicker the help, obviously, the quicker recovery. So, yeah, it's really important. And thank you for letting us do this as well.
Absolutely. And you're doing some amazing things, Mark, with work in the UK with fathers and your foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, I formed International Fathers Mental Health Day with a gentleman over the pond, Dr. Daniel Singley. I've obviously been on different platforms with the royal family, TV, radio, working with Dr. Jane Hanley as well, which has actually helped me get a more of a clinical background of perinatal mental health. But also tell my personal experience. And also I've spoken to over about 2,000 fathers, and every single father has a different story as well. So yeah, it's their knowledge I'm actually passing on, really.
Yeah, I would expect, and I'm sure everyone out there is thinking the same thing, that, you know, postpartum depression already as a topic is something that's not discussed enough. And we went over this a lot when we were talking about the film and the last time Lindsay was on with us. And there's just so much shame and stigma around the whole topic in general, even for women. It's just even that much more for men, I have to assume. And that it's so much more less discussed and unrecognized, and probably a lot more stigma around that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of fathers actually are diagnosed with just depression years later, like I was, when really if it was screened and early prevention was in place, they would have been depressed, postnatally depressed. 1 in 10 now is said, but I feel sometimes it could be more.
Wow. Yeah. What I'd like to do for a moment, you know, the last time we did this, we talked a lot about the film. That's actually, the film is what actually has brought all this to the surface here for us and the conversation. And I do want to play the trailer real quick because I think it's really going to help get a little bit of more of an understanding of what we're talking about today. Not to mention the fact that if anybody's out there who hasn't watched the film, please go do it. Regardless of whether you're the one experiencing postpartum, that's the conversation. It's not just about, you know, whether you're experiencing it. It's about awareness for everyone, so that it may be your sister, it may be your friend, it may be your brother, it may be someone that you know. And the more that we expose ourselves to this conversation, the more we shine light on it and more people get helped. So I just want to play the trailer real quick for everybody, and then we'll come back. So hold on 1 second, and let's do that.
Motherhood can be exciting. It can be a blessing. It can be a dream come true. But for 1 in 5 new mothers, It can be something else entirely.
Oh, I guess something's really wrong.
Women all over the world suffer from this, and it can occur to anybody.
There's a lot of surprises, a lot of things that nobody can prepare you for.
This singular thought just kept playing in my mind, which was, this girl would be better off with another woman as her mother.
I want a baby my whole life, and all of a sudden I have her, and they bring her over to me, and I'm like frozen.
I was very quiet and withdrawn. I thought, well, I can't tell anybody my secret.
The sleep deprivation was starting to get to her, and she took her own life.
I put a pillow over her face and just held it there until she stopped struggling.
How do we help these women from going through this?
That's why we're doing this, to educate.
We have a chance to make a difference and maybe save someone's life.
I felt like it was my fault because I didn't educate myself more.
Part of the depression is the guilt that goes along with it.
There's still so much stigma.
I think people forget that mental health is a sickness of the brain.
It's a huge issue that is not discussed.
We weren't made aware of all the risk factors, and Kelly actually had a lot of them.
Doctors are seeing more patients. It's easy for people to slip through the cracks.
When you hear about these things and you hear about how many red flags were up, it's shocking that we don't look at postpartum as something that's legitimate.
Everybody keeps a lid on it because of shame or fear or judgment, but it's amazing when you share how many stories you'll hear back.
It's so scary when you're in it, but it does shift.
Like, wow, I'm not the only one, I'm not the first, I won't be the last.
I'm proud of her for speaking up, because that takes a lot of strength.
If my wife's death can result in the prevention of other deaths, at least it wasn't in vain.
To be able to change the course of someone's life by just sharing my story, you can't even put it to words.
Wow, every time I watch that, it just gives me goosebumps, and it gives me hope too that so many more people are going to get the support that they need. So thank you, Lindsay, for doing that film. I'm sure it's like too.
Yeah, no, I've seen that trailer probably 1,010 times, and I've seen the movie only a couple times because, that's about it for me. But like, I still have tears in my eyes watching it because you literally feel for every single person talking, and it's just, it never gets easier to watch it, but it's so necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to turn to Brad for a minute because he was, a big part of the film, I'm sure in the making of it and also in the film and hearing your voice. And I have to say that when we watched it, and I won't speak for you, Joe, but when we watched it, I was really moved by your sharing, Brad, just to hear from a dad, which, and how it even happened.
Yeah.
Right. So I would just love to, what was it like for you to talk about it? What was it like for you to, I know that was like one of the first times that you were really asked about it.
Speaking about it for me was very, very therapeutic. Almost the movie was cathartic, I think, for Lindsay and I as a couple. And for me personally, it allowed me to unpack all these experiences that I went through. The movie was made probably 3 to 4 years after we went through everything. And for the period of time between what we went through and the making of the movie, I kept everything bottled up inside, because with postpartum depression, you're really so focused on your spouse, and then whatever focus you have left on your child, that it's a matter of pulling through and getting everybody through it. But I think as a father, it's a very, very scary experience because on the one hand, you have a beautiful baby, and on the other hand, you feel like you've lost your partner. The person that the person that you fell in love with, unfortunately isn't there. You are with somebody who is neurotic, who is going through anxiety, bouts of anxiety. So it's very confusing. And initially, I had no idea what was going on. And it was through therapy that Lindsay and I went to together, and through the making of the movie that I really came to understand what happened. And the making of the movie is truly what strengthened my relationship with Lindsay, because it gave me an insight as to really what she went through, how hard she struggled, and how brave she was really to survive it.
Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. I think that, it's the idea of father, when we came up with the topic or the title of today's program and what we were going to talk about, when we talk about postpartum depression and fatherhood, it does cover all those aspects. It's how do you support your wife who is experiencing this, and she's not the same person that she was, while at the same time taking care of your child, like you're saying, and trying to hold up the whole family. Or in Mark's case, where he's actually, where is that line? I wonder, where is the line that gets, is it really a kind of a blurred line between being the support and actually experiencing the depression yourself? And I would assume that's kind of a blurred gray area.
Yeah. I feel like it is a gray area because you're all in it together. So mom's experiencing something, dad's experiencing something. And when you're in the middle of an experience, when things are really happening around you, it's very hard to take a step back and dissect who's going through what. So truly, if the mom is going through this postpartum depression, it's scary to say, but the baby's going through it as well. And most definitely the father, the spouse is going through it along the way. There were moments in the movie, there were moments in our experience that we really never shared in the movie. Part of postpartum depression can be a hyper consciousness of the mother to not want to leave the baby's side, to not allow anybody else to take care of the baby. With our son, I had very little time alone with him. So that also affects the parenting and the experience. Some mothers won't let go of the child. They won't let anybody else care for the child. So that is also really difficult, and build up anger and resentment on top of everything.
Yeah.
That's how I was. I mean, when I remember one time Brad took the baby out for a walk. I think he was 10 weeks old. And I literally went out in front of the house and screaming at him. All the neighbors were coming up staring at us. I just, how dare you take the baby? And it makes no sense to him or the people that are out in the neighborhood watching. But to me, I literally felt that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just check something here because I feel like the videos, I'm going to go back to a different view here because I feel like we're not getting everybody in. So yeah, it's such a good point. It's it can express itself. What you're saying is that it can express itself in so many different ways. It doesn't look like just one way. And I think that's something that we spoke about, Mark, in how does it show up for men, because especially when men are going through depression, it can look really different than what you may expect.
Yeah, absolutely. My personal experience, obviously, I've never been so angry in my life, during that postnatal period, to the point where I even punched the sofa and bust my hand, so and that was around about the 5 or 6 month mark, and a lot of fathers I speak to, around about the 3 to 4 month mark, that's when it really sometimes kicks in. And I couldn't tell my wife how I was really feeling because I didn't want it to affect her mental health. I just wanted to make sure she was well first. And it can present in so many different ways. Mine was even drinking, so I would drink then to actually self-medicate as well. To the point where, my friends didn't recognize me as well during that postnatal period. I remember trying to fight with bouncers, silly, not because I wanted to hurt them. I just wanted somebody to punch me so to stop these agonizing thoughts in a way, a form of self-harm in a sense, So There's loads of factors, you know, and I think a lot of fathers I spoke to as well, there's loads of different negative coping skills. A lot of even use overworking and other stuff just to get away from that situation as well. So yeah, it's such a different, you know, presents different to women sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Mark, I think that's really an accurate point in that we have different coping skills. I'm someone who is typically very, very close with my friends and very, very verbal. If you go back and you talk to anybody who knew me during the first 2 years of my son's life, they have no idea of anything. I mean, I completely cut off any and all contact with all my friends. You know, you come up with excuses that you're busy with the baby and you're busy with work, but I literally for 2 years didn't talk to anybody. You know, I still have friends to this day who don't talk to me because they really took it personally that I didn't talk to them, which is understandable. And then Mark, you commented on drinking and you know, angry outbursts and everything else. I feel like I went through the same thing as well. You know, you cope in whatever mechanism can numb you and get you through the day. But the typical traditional skills to reach out to people and to share and to look for support, I feel like part of the depression pushes you down and you really insulate yourself in your problem. And that just really exacerbates the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, Brad. Honestly, the first time I actually spoke to somebody was a gentleman after my breakdown, and I realised he went through a similar situation. And within 5 minutes, I told him more things in 5 minutes than I told anyone in my life, because I knew he'd had a breakdown. He looked after his wife with postnatal depression. And yeah, that was the first time I actually thought, oh, this is fantastic. I feel a lot better. Felt like a bottle of pop, if I'm honest. Like, it's so like tight inside. You've kept it all in, and once you open up, it releases that gas, and it just keeps coming out. And now you know, I tell everyone what I've gone through as well. Like, you know, so it's just opening that gap. And I think a lot of fathers feel the same. Once they do open up, it's big relief. Like, let's get into fathers open up. And Brad, I think it's fantastic that you two are telling your story today as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It is. It's important for us to open up. And I really, this is going to sound strange, but I feel like if more fathers start communicating and sharing their feelings, the statistics on divorce amongst families where the mother undergoes or goes through postpartum depression are like astronomical. It's like a 95 or 96% divorce rate.
I'm cold.
Okay. I'll be with you. Okay. Excuse me for one moment. I'm sorry, everybody.
No. I thought he was at the North Korea interview.
Perfect.
See,
and by the way, he made it all worth it.
Right?
There you go.
Right there.
And see, he could go with the flow now because he's allowed himself the ability to, like you said, go through that cathartic process and, you know, give space for those feelings that are darker or maybe not just culturally acceptable to talk about, so that he could work through them and now just welcome the interruption versus, like, you know, come out sideways with a different energy about it.
You gotta smile, you know.
Yeah. But you know, we've been in this field now. I mean, Shari's, you know, I don't know, 27 years or whatever, and all these years I've been with her in thousands of births and pregnancies and, you know, all the different parenting experiences from private practice to retail store to online. And it's never been part of the conversation until we met you, Lindsay, and talked about your film, about what the dad goes through. That moment, you know, in the film, Brad, it just kind of took me back, seeing that aha moment where it was just like, yeah, what about me and my process? And it's because, you know, there's layers and layers and layers of maybe what a guy goes through, the mapping of his own personal upbringing and what's acceptable or not acceptable. Then there's his community or his, you know, country's culture. And then, you know, just structurally, you know, is there support or not support? So there's all these different things going on. that interfere with a man being able to recognize and get support or feel comfortable. Like I went to work and nobody would ever say like, how you doing? Like, you know, if you ever need somebody to talk to, I know, you know, although it's great, it could be a hard experience too. Like wasn't even a thought. And from birth experience and newborn experience to birth and newborn experience, there were two different experiences for us. And they're both awesome and unique. And yet the second one was really challenging because there was months of, you know, no sleep, and we didn't know at that time how to soothe our baby and understand why she was crying over and over again. And I was at one point sleeping in a different bedroom
for 6 months, for a long time.
You know, so it didn't lend itself to, you know, bonding and intimacy. And then, you know, you compound that with the fact we're trying to run a business, so there was really no honeymoon phase where we're just, you know, having that newborn experience. It was like right back to juggling toddler, newborn, no sleep, business, financial challenges. And that's a lot to put on anyone, let alone a guy who may not have the facility or the support network to really support him to, you know, deal with it all.
Yeah, and I think that that's such a good point. And also I think it brings us to the conversation of stigma, because you have stigma for the mother, you know, like why should she talk about it? Because people are going to judge, people are going to think, you know, different things about her that she doesn't want, you know, people to know. But then you look at the father, and the father's supposed to be the strong figure, you know, and they go out and work and come home and take care, and they have, you know, they're very you know, like they're supposed to be the caretaker, you know, as the quote unquote caretaker of the family. And so be very strong. So why would the father want to come out and say, you know what, I'm struggling too? Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's very, very hard, and the stigma attached to it is pretty big.
Yeah.
And there's guilt. I mean, you know, you're watching your wife go through a possibly very, I mean, she was breastfeeding, you know, no sleep, you know, trying to run the business and all the demands of what that takes. And like, how can I complain? Like,
right,
you know, that I didn't get enough sleep, or that I'm tired, or, you know, I just need a minute alone from everybody in the world. You know, like that wasn't even an option, it seemed like. So this is so great, because you're raising up an opportunity for people to engage in the conversation and seek resources and connect with people like Mark and support, you know, all the outreach that he's doing, and watch your movie and, you know, come to your Facebook page, which has so many good resources and support there too.
Yeah. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
no,
Mark.
I was just gonna say that, you know, when we were making the film, we were just kind of going with it, and we didn't say, okay, we're going to focus on dads now, and we're going to do this. But when we interviewed Brad, and I wasn't in the room for Brad's interview, I wasn't allowed to be in the room for Brad's interview or Hunter's interview, and so the first time I saw Brad's interview was when the film was complete. And what it did was it just opened up this whole other world of, oh my gosh, how important is this? Like where this is like opens up a whole new story, because, you know, when we talk about postpartum depression, it's just about the moms. And when you look at Brad in the film, I mean, it honestly made me fall right back in love with him, because it showed this vulnerability and, you know, this realness. And it's just like, okay, you know what? I was focusing on myself so much, but my husband was suffering. No wonder why we went through such a hard time on both sides of it. So yeah, making the film and seeing his story in there, I think was magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
I think having a baby in a healthy, normal couple is a huge adjustment, because all of a sudden you're going from just the two of you to there's another life involved, and all the attention that the father would get is now, you know, somewhat diverted to the child, at least for the initial, you know, 5, 6, 7 months. And in a normal situation, you know, that vacuum gets filled once the mother recovers, once things normalize. Once again, the husband and wife can return to that relationship as opposed to a mother and a father. But with postpartum, it's broken. There's actually a rift, and you never really get to go back to being husband and wife, because the wife that you knew is gone. So as a new father, as a very, very confused husband, your life has been turned upside down. Your roles have changed. Your relationships have changed. And it's really very, very scary, because when you're in the middle of it, you're not able to see that there is an end to this. And for us, for Lindsay and I, this was our first child. So part of the experience was, hey, is this normal? Is this what everybody goes through? And since nobody was talking about it, maybe everybody does go through this. Maybe this is part of being a new father. So I think a lot of the suffering that I went through was really because I didn't reach out, was really because I didn't know that, hey, this isn't normal, that, hey, you know, when you're suffering, you do need help. So my experience definitely would have been alleviated. My suffering would have been greatly reduced if there was a forum, if I had people to lean on. You know, tell you completely straight, even if I would have gotten on the phone with Mark, who I just met today, and all I needed to hear was, oh my God, you know, yeah, I'm drinking so much more and I have these bouts of anger. What that would have done is that would have alleviated so much guilt, because everything's supposed to be beautiful. Everything's supposed to be fantastic. Everything is supposed to be loving and wonderful. And yet I'm walking around feeling angry. I'm walking around feeling hurt. I'm walking around feeling frustrated. As soon as you don't deal with those feelings, the next layer steps right in, and that's guilt.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start feeling guilt, then you start feeling shame, and you don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And it goes on, and it manifests. Exactly, Brad. Honestly, it's and that's the thing. You know, a lot of fathers got a history of depression, and they managing the depression or anxiety, whatever. Then that transition into fatherhood. As we know, fatherhood's totally changed from 20 years ago. There's more stay-at-home dads. There's more dads bringing up their children alone. You know, fatherhood's totally changed. Fathers want to spend more time with the children now. You know, the social, you know, you see in the media with people put on Facebook with the family, and so, you know, especially if a father got anxiety in the workplace, and then he's got to go to work, and then he's got the mother with postnatal depression, or you know, it's so much in a short space of time. But I didn't know nothing. I didn't realize I was going through depression during the postnatal period. Even when I was having the suicidal thoughts around about the 4 to 5 month mark. It was only until I had a breakdown from another trauma. My mother had cancer, and unfortunately lost my grandfather with dementia around about 6 years. And because I hadn't dealt with all the stuff then, it re-triggered. And then when I did have the breakdown, and I was talking to a counsellor, and obviously the work I'm doing now, I realised I would have been diagnosed as postnatally depressed. So yeah, it's yeah.
It went on for quite a while, Mark, right before you were diagnosed, many years.
Yeah, it wasn't officially diagnosed with postnatal depression, because obviously I was diagnosed with depression when I was under a psychiatrist. Then I was actually diagnosed with ADHD, which is a condition I've had all my life. You know, so I was 40, when I had the official diagnosis of ADHD. So obviously your mind's constantly racing anyway, and you've got all these ideas, and then all of a sudden you got this, you know, your partner's got postnatal depression. And one thing I will say, my wife is a real hero, because my wife's never really gone to tell her story. And I think when she's told a lot of her story, but I think what we went through is, well, she went through, I would say, was absolutely horrendous, you know, to a point where she wasn't safe. That's what I would say, you know. So obviously I had to give up work. Financial problems were coming in, because you got a mortgage to pay, and then you're thinking, am I a good father? I didn't get an overwhelming feeling of love for my son at that time, because I honestly thought it was so, especially after the birth, because I honestly thought my wife was going to die and the baby was going to die, because the way the doctors came in, like. So I think it's some sort of PTSD, perhaps birth trauma as well, going on to the postnatal depression, looking after the partner. Yeah, so it's, and like I said, like Brad, it's typical. It's so many fathers, I feel, that don't even know they got depression. Like me, I didn't know I had depression when I was going through it, because I never experienced what I went through.
Mm-hmm. You know, you just brought up a really important point that I wanted to just elaborate a little bit more on, which was, you know, the idea of the labor, the birth, the post-traumatic stress that can happen from that experience. You know, we used to talk a lot about that to new parents, and it's something that I've always been very aware of as a midwife attending births, is that we do put a lot of you know, there was a time, you know, in the past where men did not come in for the deliveries to be part of the birth.
Last generation.
You know, just a generation ago, men were not there for that experience. And probably, you know, and for most of time, it was women caring for women during birth. And I think it's a good thing that fathers are there for the experience and for the delivery. But we sometimes put a lot of pressure on fathers to perform, to be the coach, to be the one, to be strong, even during the birth process, which they've never experienced either. And so, you know, it can start right there where it can be really scary. I know that the only time I've ever come close to even experiencing what a father must experience is the birth of my niece when I delivered my sister's baby. And it was the first time that I actually had deep feelings for the person that I was with, you know, and then the added pressure of having to deliver the baby. And I remember just incredible feelings of anxiety and fear and seeing things that weren't even necessarily happening. Needless to say, I did not deliver her second baby. That we understood that was not a good idea. But it definitely brought an awareness for me of what it must be like for a father to be there attending the birth when, you know, even when things are going well, it's scary to see the person you love in pain. And when things are not going well, how scary it is to have that fear, like you said, Mark, of the potential of losing your spouse or your child. So I could see how that could really set somebody off right there. And it is one of the things, right? Is that right from your experience?
Yeah, I didn't realize till years later what the nightmares was about. And obviously I thought my wife was going to die. I remember having these vivid thoughts and of the knives in the emergencies in the theater, and even the smell, you know, can trigger, as we know, certain situations, you know. So, and like, what I will say is we only went on to have one child, but I think a lot of fathers, if my wife did ever become, well, she's not going to become pregnant again because I've had the operation. But what I will say is, I think the anxiety, the antenatal anxiety, would probably increase, perhaps because the thought of me going into that labour ward again, because I hadn't dealt with what happened in that labour ward. I think that's another issue. We got to talk about antenatal anxiety amongst men, you know, postnatal depression, everything, perinatal mental health, maternal OCD. There's fathers who've got these thoughts, you know, impulsive thoughts. And sometimes we look at the behaviour of the father and we think, oh, he's a bad father, this. But sometimes it's a case that they don't rather be taken out of that situation, like, you know. So, you know, this is the other thing. But yeah, birth trauma is another topic I think would be great to talk about again. But definitely, I'm just so glad that Brad and Joe is speaking with me tonight, because it's nice to have that conversation that what fathers, not just me, go through, but other fathers go through as well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take away anything from the mom. You know, that's what's so great. Like, it's not either or. Opening it up doesn't diminish the mom's experience. It just supports both of them as a couple and the family. And you know, everybody has their own unique experience. And just even to put the conversation out there just helps raise that awareness. Because, you know, somebody watching right now or somebody being past this video now has this recognition that when they see a dad, and if he's a little bit withdrawn, or if he's seeming like really edgy, or if he's drinking more, like just that little bit of awareness can open up the door for somebody to open up a conversation with them, and at least let him know there's somebody there he could talk to, or, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that could also save the relationship too. I mean, if the father, you know, a partner opens up about their experience and seeks help right away with their own struggles, you know, I think that kind of alleviates the gap that happens between the couples as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very hard for two broken people to be together, and it's very hard for two people who are suffering to support each other.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, what happens is you end up hurting each other more because you can't be there for them. If you're not there for yourself, if you don't feel like you're standing on stable ground, it's very hard. It's almost impossible to be there for somebody else. And again, then the guilt kind of kicks in as well. I'm not able to be there for my wife. I'm not a provider. I'm not a good father. I'm not a good husband. And there's a lot of intuitive feelings that happen between a husband and wife. When the husband doesn't feel well, when the husband is upset, we don't have to verbalize it. Oftentimes the wife can feel that and she reacts and she becomes more and more withdrawn because she feels like the husband is holding out. So we're dealing with these spiraling situations that really can be avoided, and a lot of pain can be prevented just by communicating, just by one partner in the equation understanding what's really going on. And, we can't overemphasize how important education and support is in the situation, because it really cut the cycle down.
Yeah, and when we look at, even when we watch the film and we see how severe it can get to a psychosis where it's literally life and death, and we understand that partners, spouses, fathers are typically the only ones that are witnessing some of this, and we're relying on them to bring it out, shine light on it, get support, ask for help. And then, like you just said, Brad, that person is not standing on stable ground either. The consequences of not addressing fathers is huge, and it is a matter of life and death, whether it's, suicidal thoughts in fathers, which I'm sure Mark could comment on what the statistics might be, but we know that this is the case for mothers, for fathers, relationships, and then babies, the safety of the baby themselves. And so it seems to me like, as we're talking about it, when we talk about better screening for moms, better support for moms, it has to include both. It's like imperative. It seems like it can't even happen. It can't really happen without including both partners.
You're right. In my experience talking to families, sometimes it's only the father who's actually got the depression, and that's impacting on the mother's mental health. And as we know, that impacts sometimes on the bonding attachment with the child as well. So, and up to 50% of partners whoever it is, if it's a mother or the father, will have depression, actually looking after a partner anyway. So it got to be a more of a family approach. I don't just campaign for fathers, I campaign for mothers as well, mother-baby units. But also, it's got to be a family approach, because that one piece of jigsaw missing, at the end of the day, if mom is going to get, or the father is going to get support, down the line, that relationship could end, because early prevention actually saves money as well, and also saves lives. I think the suicide rates amongst men around fatherhood needs to be more research as well. So how many fathers go on and take their lives as well? So it's such a big area I think we need to tackle.
Mm-hmm. And I think we have to start looking at it really early, like even during pregnancy. But see, pregnancy in itself can start the whole, depression doesn't just happen during the postpartum period. It can start way before that, just at, right at conception. Mm-hmm. And all the hormonal changes that occur in women, there are hormonal changes that men go through too, right, Mark?
That's right. Yeah. There's research that does say that as well. It's if I'm honest, I was having this conversation with Dr. Daniel Singley, and it's a good podcast which he did, and he was talking about this more. But I'm still learning about that side of the depression in men as well. So, but there's loads of factors. It could be a factor that sometimes the father's not thinking he's going to be a good father. So the thought process, like the mum, am I a good mum? And the father would think the same. Am I a good father? Am I good enough to be a father? And it could be traumas in his life as a child. There's loads of it's so complex. Mental health is not one person the same. I honestly believe it's such a big area, So and that's the other thing. When I talk to fathers, sometimes they say, "Oh, counselling don't work, Mark," but sometimes it's finding what talking therapy is good for them, whether it's mindfulness, CBT, DBT, whatever it is. So it's got to be more of a person-centered approach. Sometimes some fathers only just want to chat, they're low mood. And like Brad just mentioned just now, I wish I just knew another father who would experience what I went through. That may help me a lot more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing that now, Mark, you know, with all the work that you're doing and all the places that you're speaking and bringing this out into the awareness. I mean, that's what you're doing. What we're doing here today is all because of the conversation of Brad and of you. And it's really amazing what one person can do just from talking about their own experience and where that can lead. I really commend both of you.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the chat, and there's consensus. You know, everybody's saying like thumbs up to screening, that we need screening. Thumbs up to education, that it's the key. And also like what you were both talking about, Brad and Lindsay, about vulnerability. Like it's a vulnerable state to give birth physically, but also emotionally and mentally. You know, that whole transition like you're talking about, Brad, you know, and if it's your first time going in, or you know, you really didn't have sufficient education, or you don't have enough support set up, it just leaves you in a very vulnerable state, and it's so important.
What are some resources that are available right now that people can reach out to? Because anybody's watching right now, it's kind of like we've kind of outlined what this may look like. What are some good things that we'd love to see? But what could they do right now if they're experiencing it?
I think the PSI got a good network of people. Fantastic. Obviously, I was lucky to meet Wendy Davis last year in Seattle, and obviously speaking with Daniel. You know, I know he does a forum for Men Excel. So it's some really good stuff. I know UK is really growing. I'm lucky enough to go to Westminster Parliament on Tuesday. So we're trying to explain about the screening side. So and Australia and Canada. But if I'm honest, we need more. We're only getting last 5 years the massive awareness of mothers has been absolutely incredible, and I've been lucky to be part of that. So I think the father stuff is starting slowly. We're a couple of years behind, but we're getting there. But these conversations, like today, this is what it's all about. It's just about education, and I think we need to talk about it like we're talking like about 5 a day. Let's talk about mental health. Even if we don't ever get it in my lifetime, at least I'll have some education to educate my friend or know what he's going through or she is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. You know, Mark said PSI, and that's Postpartum Support International. And if Wendy's watching, hi Wendy, we love you. They're an amazing support, you know, organization, and not only for moms but for fathers too. And again, they have a warm line, which I've spoken about, that you can call, and their website's postpartum.net. And someone will call you back. You leave a message, someone will call you back within 24 hours, and a dad can call, a father, a partner, mother, you know, a sibling, anybody can call to reach out for help and get resources.
Mm-hmm. So great.
But I do think we need more, and I really hope that this conversation we're having right now kind of opens the door for that as well.
Well, everybody who's watching right now, the best thing that you can do to support this and help would be to share. Yep. Share this video, share this stream. You can just hit share right here, and it'll share to your wall. And let as many, you don't really know who needs it. Sometimes, and those are the people who need it the most will probably be the ones you may not be speaking to, that you may not be hearing from, as everybody described earlier on. Seeing it show up in their feed may be exactly the very thing that they need to support them right now, you know. So it's really great.
Absolutely.
Just the feeling of knowing that you're not the only one that's going through it. Yeah. Just the knowledge that other people have been where you've been is so helpful. So the sharing is so important, and can affect people's lives in ways that, you know, we won't even know, because people don't come out and speak. And just opening up, just sharing, we're saving lives by doing this. I respect Mark's openness, and, you know, for you guys creating a forum, for putting this out there is incredible. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
No, thank you too. And the film, honestly, the goosebumps. I just watched that trailer again. It's absolutely incredible. And Shari, this is what it's all about. I think even when you got a father who's 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, he's wants to know more information. You can click onto this website and that sometimes that's just knowing that he's not the only one going through it. But what I will say, if there's any fathers out there, the quicker the help, the quicker recovery. You know, go to your GP or your doctor, and then talk about it. I wish I did. I wish I didn't take me 6 years until eventually I had a breakdown to talk about it. But I've learned from my own experience well, and yeah, it's great now.
And look what you're doing now with your experience, Mark. You know, you're saving lives now, and I really admire you and what you're doing.
Oh, so thanks, guys. Well, same here, guys. Honestly, seriously. I just don't want anyone go through what we went through. And you know, I'll be honest with you. I've a different career path now, and I just want to. It's not so much. I can't. You know. I just don't want anyone to go through what we went through as a couple. And what I will say is, my wife's depression come back after looking after me this time. Not many people know about that either. So when I had that breakdown and I was going through my darkness hours, my wife's depression came back for that year as well.
Yeah. I also want to just mention, Lindsay, your Facebook page, because I know you're on there every single day. You're always communicating with everybody. And for anybody who's watching, you go over and like the page When the Bough Breaks. Lindsay is running the page.
Yeah, it's there's another film called When the Bough Breaks. It's very different from ours. So type in When the Bough Breaks, a documentary about.
Thank you.
Because you don't want to mix the two up.
Yeah.
And the film's available now on iTunes and all video on demand platforms, and it's in the UK and Finland and Canada, and we're waiting to see where else it goes. So yeah, thank you, and I really hope, you know, the feedback so far from people watching the film has been wonderful, and we're really grateful, and I hope it keeps spreading. So please share so we can help more people.
The tag's in the post, so you don't even have to search for it. You could just click next to Lindsay's name. And thank you, Casey. I'm just reading another comment. She said, nothing was even mentioned in our birth classes about the postpartum period. And this is like we were talking about, you know, here we were with our second baby, you know, teaching classes, or, you know, we weren't even at this awareness point for ourselves because we were so in it. And it's just not part of most curriculums. And it doesn't have to be like, they're just like everything else, right? From baby blues to psychosis, there's just a spectrum. So it doesn't have to be extremely dramatic where somebody's having a breakdown on the verge of the breakdown. It could just be a dad or the mom is in the blues kind of side of the spectrum, but just being able to, like you're saying, Brad, not feel isolated or isolate themselves could take them off of that side path, which would, you know, then create distance or, you know, more conflict in the relationship and bring them back and get the support. Get video bomb. He can come in. Does he have something to say?
Love it.
He loves being on camera. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was in the film too, so there you go.
You know what? Like, he was good timing. I mean, just twice coming in today. That's awesome.
Pretty good. And so for anybody who knows somebody who could really use watching this, pretty much everybody who's having a baby or planning to in the future or knows somebody who will, we'll be replaying this live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Lindsay and I will be back in the chat room with everybody at 9 o'clock Eastern.
Brad's going to join too. Brad's going to join also. So if you have any questions for Brad, he'll be on.
So,
you know, I think I might join you as well. What time do you?
You know, Mark's up. Not going to go to sleep.
Okay, we're all going to be in the chat room with you later in about, what is it? It's 5 o'clock here. So in about 4 hours, we will be back here to broadcast this entire conversation live again with a whole new set of people that everybody, we understand we're doing this at different times of the day, but we're also broadcasting all over the world. We wanted to accommodate anyone who wanted to be live with us. So we will be back in just a few hours. And I just want to say thank you so much for being with us today, and for everybody in the chat room for being with us, and for everybody who's going to be watching this on replay. This is just the beginning of a very important conversation, not the end. We intend this to be the beginning of it. We'll be back with more, I'm sure, over the months to come. And please share it with your friends and your family and anyone that you know. Sometimes it's easier to share something like this than to have the conversation directly. So.
And anybody here in this real time, you actually have a few hours. So if you want to catch the documentary, if you haven't seen it yet, you could actually watch it and then come into the chat room and actually ask questions or interact on that level from having seen it.
That'd actually be awesome. I would love that.
Right on iTunes. Right on iTunes.
Very, very
and as you can see, Brad and I are open books at this point. So any questions you have, like, we're so beyond happy to answer them.
Yeah.
Or have a conversation.
So great. Yeah, and we'll have to do this again because I didn't get a chance to show Brad's videos, but there's some great video footage of Brad from the film. But I was just happy to have Brad live and in person. So we had the real thing. So we were happy for that today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your dinner, and then we'll all be back here in just a few hours. And maybe you want to take a little nap, Mark, and then get up in the middle of the night to have some fun with us.
He's too fired up.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us and this conversation. So appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you everybody chatting away and supporting. We're just so appreciative, and you're part of the journey. We're all doing this together, you know. We know better, we do better, we support more.
Yeah. Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you so much for being so brave. I love you.
I love you too, Brad. Thank you.
Awesome.
Brilliant, guys. Excellent. Honestly.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. We'll see you in a few hours, and thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Whoops. Hold on. What did I do here? There we go.